Hello and welcome. Today we are going through my mid-year favorites. So I can't believe 2024 is already halfway over. And I wanted to go through and just kind of give you guys my favorites from the different categories. And I have to say there were some surprises this year. So we're going to actually start off with brushes. And I did want to try to narrow things down originally to like top 3, but then I realized when I was going through all the categories that doesn't always work. So some categories were better than others this year, and I just couldn't narrow some of them down, whereas others I couldn't even get to 3. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, first I want to give a shout out to a new store to me this year. So Cle de Peau is a relatively new food shop that, is new to me for 2024. And I have to say, I have made so many purchases there since, I found out about them. Thank you to Ms. Siobhan, who is the one who shared them with me. And I have received PR from them and Food Beauty as well. I buy pretty much all of my brushes though from Food Beauty and from Cle de Peau. And they both have different things to offer, different price points. So it's definitely, good to always do a comparison and check out what each shop has to offer. So first I wanted to share, some brushes I purchased from Cle de Peau, and these were for Year of the Dragon, and look at these. We've got a powder brush and a blush brush. And I have to say, I absolutely love these. These are huge favorites. This powder brush just recently restocked at Cle de Peau. It's small enough still that you can use it for blush, and this is just kind of a go-to. So between the two, I think the powder brush is probably my favorite. I use this one the most. It is so soft. I love the etched dragon. So it's etched, it's not going to come off. And so I absolutely love these. So these are from Koh Gen Do. You can recognize the monochrome handle, which, the monochrome powder brush is one of my favorite. And that actually, I believe, made it to my favorites for 2023. So definitely a great one. Another one from Koh Gen Do from Yoshiki. This is a highlighter brush. And it's incredibly soft. It's great for powder highlighters. You have enough taper here that you could even go underneath the eye with things. You can use this for, blush or whatever you need, like smaller detail with, but I primarily use this for highlighter. And then in addition, Cle de Peau, Bobo and Chikuhodo, they have collaborated on some brushes. This one here has become a favorite for me. So blush, bronzer, and highlighter using the tip here. This is your 3D shape. I use this brush all the time. This is a favorite. It's a CH1. And I also love the black to blue gradient handle as well. So definitely highly recommend it. And then in addition, we have the Artist Series from Chikuhodo, and you might also see this under the name Eyeshadows as well. So they're technically made by Chikuhodo, but they're one of those, it's kind of a long story, but they're one of those brands or series where other brands can purchase them and use them under their name as well. So you can see these under Chikuhodo or Eyeshadows. And this one here in particular is the number 2. It's a cheek brush. This is one of my favorite shapes for cheek brushes, and I feel like it's hard to find a great domed cheek brush that's like the perfect size, softness, and everything. And this is that for me. So you can also purchase these from Eyeshadows with longer handles. There is a longer handle version as well. From Chikuhodo, we have these shorter red handles as the only version I've seen so far. And I absolutely love this brush. We have just a couple more. I wanted to give a shout out to the Chikuhodo Ren series. So I think the Ren series is fantastic. Personally, this is my favorite full series that's come out since the Kazan series. So this is my favorite. I just think it's fantastic. It's incredibly soft. You've got great shapes. We do have some repetitive shapes from other series. So if you already have a bunch of brushes, I would definitely take a look at those, but I highly recommend this series. I think it is fantastic. One thing I forgot to mention here with the Artist series, this hair here is it's the same hair that's used in the FO series from Chikuhodo, which is another favorite of mine, but we do have kind of updated shapes and sizes with that. And then I wanted to mention this Towel House Ode series brush. the flat paddle style, this is one that has really, become a shape and size that I've loved. Last year, one of my favorites was this brush here from Eyeshadows. And you can see they do have a similar shape, although the Tao House is smaller. And I find that this smaller brush is great to use. Texturally, these are pretty similar. Now, this one here has the goldfish on it from Eyeshadows. If you are looking for a larger one, they do have one with a geisha that should be the same brush head. So it is limited edition. But this smaller one from Tao House, I've been using this a ton. I love this for loose powder in particular. So it's become a go-to. And then last up, I never even got around to reviewing these on my channel, but I've used them in quite a few videos. And these are two brushes from the BK Beauty and Nikki LaRose set. So I use these for concealer. So this is technically an eyeshadow brush here, but I love how we have those stippled fibers there. So if you're using like a thicker concealer, this really helps kind of feather that out a little bit so you don't have too heavy of a product layer there. So I use this is the N16. I use that for concealer. And again, I just really like, I just love how these longer hairs there actually kind of help spread out the product. And these two are synthetic, by the way. This is the N14. And this is kind of a multi-purpose brush. This is great for some of those liquid blushes and bronzers to blend out, or highlighters. But I, again, use this primarily for concealer. So this one here I find is better for like a lighter, thinner consistency of a concealer, one of the ones that's more liquidy, whereas the other one's a little bit better with the thicker formulations. So those have been my favorite brushes so far this year. And I have to say, oh, I forgot one. So there have just been so many great ones. It was really hard to narrow it down. But I also wanted to include this Kyoto Year of the Dragon. Now, I love dragons, so I bought a ton of dragon brushes this year, and I really had to narrow it down. But these would be my favorites for the year. And I have to say, I used this one. I actually purchased a couple of these. They are my favorite for using things like the Sisley Blur Expert Powder, which, I use this every day over my primer, but under my foundation. And so for me, the go-to brushes for that would be that, or this Chanel oversized kabuki they came out with a year or two ago. So those are my favorite brushes. I hope that was helpful. I'd love to know what yours were. There were just so many great brushes. Obviously, I couldn't get all of the new brushes this year, but I did get quite a few. So narrowing it down was definitely a big challenge. Now let's go ahead and move into some base products for makeup. Now for primers and concealers, my favorites haven't changed, although I have to say I have really been enjoying this new NARS Light Reflecting Primer, but it's not quite at the favorite category yet. It might be by the end of the year. I just haven't used it enough. So primers and so forth, they are not new. I still absolutely love the Cle de Peau Brightening Enhancer Veil, which I'm almost out of there. And then this, which is discontinued, the Dior Forever Skin Veil. This is my last backup. And then I actually need to pull out a new tube, but the Surat Perfectionist Primer, that is my go-to primer. I go through, I've gone through tubes of that since that has come out, and I actually have two backups, so I just have to pull one out. I'm just using up some other things first. So those are my favorite face primers still. And then definitely have to give a shout out to the Sisley Blur Expert, and shade 0 in light is relatively new. So this came out, I think, the end of last year, and I use it all the time. So this is basically like a powder. I just knocked stuff down. This is a powder primer. So it gives you a blur under your skin, but this powder works better underneath foundation or your base makeup instead of on top. So it makes it a little different, but it gives you a nice blur. And I find it really helps give me that more like perfected skin look. So this I had to include. Now for other powders, we had a ton of pressed powders that came out this year, and I have to say there's some really great ones. I absolutely love some of those powders, but they didn't necessarily become absolute favorites. So we have the Sisley Blur Expert, which is a favorite. And then for the pressed powders, my favorite has actually been the Addiction Tokyo. So I kept this in the refill container, but you can purchase a case for this. And this one here, you know, I really like both forms of their pressed powder. This is the Skin Reflect, but they also have a silky matte. This one here is the light pink, and I just think this is powder for people who don't want powder on their face. So it sets your makeup, it gives you a little blur, a little bit of a sheen without any glitter or sparkle, and it doesn't have that powdery finish to it at all. So even if you have dry skin and you kind of want to set your makeup with something, but powder is always just a little bit too heavy, the Addiction Tokyo, you know, that's kind of where it shines. So that has made it into my favorites. And then, although pretty new, this RMS Hydra Setting Powder, this is the loose powder. This has really, you know, I keep using this. I actually have this on today. You can see it gives a nice blurred finish to your skin, and it's not heavy or powdery. It's thin, it's lightweight. It comes in different colors, so I have a shade light, and I just think it is a great powder. So those would be my top 3 powders for 2024. For foundations, I really only wanted to add 2 new ones. So we have the Prada foundation. This came out last year, but I had a really hard time color matching. And I finally found my match, and this is the foundation I have on my skin today. So I'm LC5 in this, and this is refillable. So, you know, you can buy the regular foundation that comes with a case one time, and then these refills just slip in and out. So I find, you know, buying the refills is actually, you know, it's not that expensive. So it's done well. So this is LC5. You can see it's a really good color match for me. Now, technically my skin's neutral. This has just the faintest tint of rosiness to it, but it's definitely not overly cool. It's not as cool as your traditional cool foundation. So they run overall slightly warm. The neutral version was just a little bit too warm for me. So I'm neutral with cool overtones. So neutral leaning cool. So if you are looking for a match, just note that they do run a little warm. The other one I wanted to bring up is the Lisa Eldridge Skin Tint, which I'm probably halfway through this bottle already because this has just become like a go-to product for me. And I know when I go on vacation this summer, I'll be taking this with me. And you can see we've got quite a few different shades. I have shade T1. And I just think it's a fantastic skin tint because you do get some coverage, you get kind of a perfected sheen, but not so much coverage that you are, you know, not able to see your skin. So it just looks like your skin is a little bit better and you get a nice radiance from it as well. So these are the 2 that I absolutely love. My other favorite that I still go for all the time, even though it's been years now, is the Cle de Peau Radiant Matte and Radiant Natural. I use these in a 50-50 mix. So I actually filled up my Cle de Peau Cushion Compact. After I used that up, I filled it up with a 50-50 mix of this, and I keep refilling that. And just for reference, I wear shade I10 in Cle de Peau in like all of their base products. It's one of the best, you know, color matches for me that I have found. Now for eyeshadows, I don't think these are going to be any big surprises. These are all products that I use a lot and you might see on me in several of my videos. First up, we have the Viseart Paris Reverie palette. And, you know, I absolutely love how we've got a mix of cool, warm, and neutral shades. You've got plenty of neutral shades for just like a regular sophisticated look, but you still have some pops of color in there to brighten things up. You've got some of those peachy summery hues in there and some lilac, and I absolutely love this. So this is one that I leave out on my vanity, and it's one that I reach for all the time. So it's like my go-to weekend palette. I absolutely love it. And then I also wanted to mention the Make Beauty in Quartz. This is a beautiful, kind of a rosy taupe with a lot of shimmer. This is another like one and done shadow that I use all the time. In addition, we have the Victoria Beckham Eye Crayon in Shroom, which is another rosy taupe. And I absolutely love this shade. This is a great go-to shade for me as well. And then the next 3, I bet these are no big surprises. We have the Givenchy 9.12. So this is a beautiful neutral palette. Again, you've got some beautiful, as you can tell, taupe is one of my favorites. You've got some taupes. These are going to be more neutral versus cool or warm. So I think this is a great palette. You know, none of the shades necessarily are earth-shattering or something new, but it's a great collection of shades. Another favorite of mine would be the Chanel Eclat de Nuit. In particular, it's this shade here that makes the palette special in my opinion. It's kind of this, you know, burnished gold with green in it. And I think it's just super special. So absolutely love this quad. And then, no surprise, Byredo. This is the Mineralscapes palette. And we've got quite a few shades in here. We've got purples, we've got some terracottas, some greens, some blues. We've got taupes and golds and silvers and roses. You know, it's got kind of everything. It does run a bit cool, which personally, I love this. So let's just swatch a couple here. Here's like one of the greens, one of the taupes, one of, let's go with a dusty lilac shade. And I just think this is a fantastic palette and I absolutely love it. The formulas are fantastic as well. It's well worth the high price tag for the palette, in my opinion. If you like colors like that, definitely check it out. Another eyeshadow I wanted to highlight would be the Prada shadows. So these came out last year. They made it to my favorites for last year, but I did pick up some additional shades. This is the one I have on right now. This is 03 Pulse. And I love these because we have quite a few different finishes here. So you have kind of like this matte shade. Here, let's put it here. We have a satin. Then we have a shimmer. And we have this, it's kind of hard to see sometimes against the black, but it's like a thin like liner shade. And this is a different, it's matte, but it's a different texture. So this is kind of like a softer matte. You can build this up, make it more impactful, but this is a little bit creamier, stiffer. So I love how they don't really like shift around. Performance is fantastic on all of these. And I love mixing and matching these. You can technically go with like just a very basic neutral look. You can add a little pop of color. The matte shades here, you can put them on softly enough that you only get a very subtle hint of color, or you can build them up. So I absolutely love the Prada formulas, love the colors, and the new ones I picked up this year did make it into my favorites as well. Now, eyeliners. We've gone through quite a few new eyeliners this year, particularly recently, and I really do love all of the ones that have made it into my favorites. But the two that I just keep coming back to and using on a daily basis would be the YSL and the Esom. So these are my top two. The Dior, you know, I've talked about those a lot. I love the colors. I really like those, but these are the ones I reach for the most. So this is the YSL in Deconstructed Brown, number 2. And the YSL formula, you know, both the YSL and the Esom, what I love about them is they're very creamy. They're easy to put on, but then they set and they stay all day. And I can even use them in the waterline without irritation and without significant fading throughout the day. You will get some fading, you know, any area that gets wet, you're going to lose some, but they hold up really well. And then this is the Esom with the purple and the pink side. And yeah, I love how these perform and I love how easy they are to use. So the Esom, I love how they're dual ended and you have a couple choices there because I don't necessarily always use up all of my eyeliners. And I love having one that I can sharpen. So versus a twist up, personally, I prefer those you can sharpen manually. So yeah, these would be my two favorite eyeliners. I do still want to give a shout out to the Dior because I think their new formulation is just so much better than the previous one. And their color selection is awesome. So as for the Esom and the YSL colors are a bit more classic. There are a couple bright pops, but nothing really super wild. The Esom, you have a mix. You've got some wilder shades, but you also have your classics. So definitely check them out and let me know what you think. All right, for brows, the new brow product for me that really stood out is the Byredo brow pencil, which I didn't think I was gonna like when it came out because I didn't love the previous version. But this has, you know, I've been using this all the time. It comes with a refill and this is the shade Sand. You can see you can get a really fine point on this as well. And it's dry yet creamy, if that makes sense. So it feels dry, you can feel it sharp going on, but it has a bit of a creamy texture to it to help kind of blend it out and get into the skin, but then it lasts really well. So my other favorite brow product from last year would be the Victoria Beckham Baby Blade. So these two are my two favorite brow products of all, and the Byredo is new this year. And again, this is a new formulation from the previous one, so if you tried the old one and you didn't love it, this one I would recommend. And I love that it comes with a refill. Now for mascara, we've also had some really great ones. Now this one actually came out last year at the end of the year for the holidays, but you know, it's limited edition. I definitely, you know, if you're interested in it, pick it up while you can still find it. I just purchased a backup on Selfridges, another backup, but this is the shade Eroda Echo. I really love this mascara. It's kind of like a deeper, like teal, and it's great. So I wish they would make this permanent. It's kind of like a dusty, deep teal. Then the other mascaras, new to me, I can't remember if this mascara actually came out last year from Lisa Eldridge, but I tried it just relatively recently, and this is the Kitten Lash. And it's black. I do hope they come out with a brown version, but I really love how this performs on the lashes, and it's the one that I'm wearing right now. The other one that I've actually purchased, this is the travel size, which I personally love travel size versions, but I've also purchased the full size. This is the new Givenchy L'Interdit. And again, it doesn't come in a brown, but I do hope that it does. So in the future, but I really love these. These are ones that are going to help separate your lashes. They're going to give you a little bit of volume and a little bit of lengthening, but they're not going to be crazy volumizing or crazy lengthening for either of them. It's kind of like a bit more natural. Now you can vamp up the Givenchy the most out of these three. And yeah, I have to say I really like it. Now personally, I love brow mascara. Still waiting for Surratt to come out with a brun tint instead of the noir lash tint. So I would love to have a brown version of that. And for brown mascaras, I'm still using the Westman Atelier in the, was it I Love You or I Want You? It's the newer version. So I'm using that in brown, and I just started using the Swede Cloud Mascara in brown as well. So I'll have that up soon, but that one's still too early to put in favorites. So let's go ahead and move on to highlighters. Now for highlighters, I have to say this year, the ones that have been coming out, my favorites have actually been liquids and creams. So let's start off with the Addiction Tokyo sticks. So these were new to me this year. This one here is the shade 104P Sober Rose. And this came out with one of their, this was a spring collection. It's deep enough you can use this for blush, but you can also put it on lightly enough for a highlighter. I love the texture because it, you know, it's smooth. There's no grittiness to it. You have a sheen to it, but you don't see large glitter particles, and it stays put without any sort of tacky texture to it. Now, I also purchased one, that one was gifted, but I purchased one from the permanent line as well that I use all the time. I will be having an updated Addiction Tokyo video soon, but this is just kind of like a great everyday neutral champagne shade. This is called Above the Moon. It's 001P. And I absolutely love this. So it's a go-to for me. I use it all the time. So those are kind of my two solids. I actually didn't have any powder highlighters that became a favorite. The powder ones I'm still using the most are the Tom Ford Soleil Neige collection ones that came out during the holidays. Now, you do need to shake this one up, but this is the Addiction Tokyo Cheek Polish. And first of all, it's super cute because it comes in this like nail polish kind of container. These you can use as blush, you can use them as highlighter. We've seen a lot of liquid blushes, and I typically use this shade more as like a blush lighter, and that's why I love it for. Now, this was part of the spring or summer collection. This is Mauve Sunset, but it was limited edition. I haven't seen that one back on their site in a while. Other ones I absolutely love. You know, we've had a lot of liquid highlighters and blush lighters from like, what was it? Armani, YSL's coming out with theirs, then Dior. And I have to say, this one here is Dior in Nude, and I have this one on right now. I really love these. So I use the light pink one a lot, and then this nude shade. Those are kind of the two that I use the most. This one gives me a little bit more of a bronzy look. I can put this on more as a bronzer. And an alternative to that would be the Dior Forever Glow Star Filter. So these glow maximizers are limited edition, but the Star Filter is permanent and it comes in different shades. So if you like something like this nude look, the nude color, you can find like a deeper shade of the Star Filter and use it that way as well. And it's, you know, a little bit, I think it's, I mean, you got more product. I'd have to check the prices, but I want to say you have a better value with that. Now, the Star Filter you can use as a primer as well, but I like to use it as a subtle highlighter. I typically will either put this on top of my makeup or I just put a little bit on the cheeks underneath my base for a sheen. So those are all favorites for me. This is shade 0, by the way. So those would be my favorite highlighters for 2024 so far. Let's move on to blushes. Now for blushes, again, we've had some great blushes come out, but I was able to narrow these down pretty well. So first up, as much as I didn't want to love it, it's the Tom Ford Creme Blush in No. 1 Cafe Blush. I didn't want to love it because it has a super steep price tag. It does look a little warm when swatched, but putting this on, it gives me the most beautiful kind of like nude look on my cheeks. And the formula on this, it's creamy, it goes on smoothly, it's really easy to blend out, and it stays all day. So I really love this as much as I didn't want to. So if you're interested in it though, it does go on sale. It is limited edition, so it's not gonna be around long, but do try and get it on sale if you're interested in that. Then powder blushes, I mean, my favorites for sure would be the Kosa blushes that came out this year. This one's Dreamland. This is the one I have on today. And these are a nice, smooth, silky marble blush. They are similar to like Laura Geller and some of those other big blushes that you've seen. These feel a little silkier than the Laura Geller to me. But I do really like them. And the difference, the main difference between these and the Laura Geller, because a lot of people have been asking, would be, I think, the shades. You have brighter shades in the Kosa blushes. It's more like the undertone's a little bit brighter, whereas we have more of a, you know, I think the undertone in the Laura Geller is more of like an ivory, whereas this would be more of a brighter, whiter base. So it makes the colors a little bit brighter overall. So that's kind of the difference there. They look similar on the cheeks, but I have to say I really love them. Now you can see we get a little bit of a sheen with these, but they're not going to be super shimmery. You can build them up to get more shimmer, but it's kind of like a soft shimmer to them. And then the last one I wanted to include is the Chantecaille blushes. So these are the Sunstone blushes. I have to say, I was really on the fence about including them because I don't like the packaging on these. This is the shade Confidence. These do have a sheen to them. They're incredibly silky. The formula is fantastic. But, you know, I keep reaching for it, so I figure it has to make it into my favorites. Now, the shade Confidence is similar to the Chanel Fantasy de Chanel, if you picked this one up in the past. So you can see how those shades compare. They are pretty close. So you probably don't need both if you already have one. And yeah, those would be my favorite blushes so far this year. I keep using them. And then my runner-up was actually the new Bobbi Brown blushes. So these blushes from Bobbi Brown, I use these a ton as well. This is Desert Rose, which is a matte. She's got mattes and shimmers. And these are just great go-to everyday blushes. So I think they are just kind of like a nice basic formula. No frills or anything with the formula, but they last, they perform well. And you've got some great natural looking shades, some brighter shades I haven't tried as well. So I just think that these are definitely well worth looking at as well, especially when you can get them on sale. All right, now for lips, this was so incredibly hard to narrow down. You know, I love lipsticks. I love lip products in general. It was just so hard to narrow these down, but I did it and I didn't put too many on the list. So first up, we have Dries Van Noten. As I've mentioned many times, Dries Van Noten has my favorite lipstick formulas. You've got satin, you've got matte, you've got great packaging. If you're looking for a luxury lipstick to splurge on, Dries Van Noten is the one because you've got great cases. These are refillable, so you purchase the case and the refill separately. You can see that they go in snugly. And we have, you know, just a wide variety of shades. You've got some neutrals, you've got some bright shades, but they're different from all of your other shades because they are going to be, you know, you've got nuances in there of different hues and so forth. So this one here is the Sheer Abstract Red. This is a new shade, and these just came out on the US website finally. And I love their formula, the sheer, the satin, and the matte. So yeah, these are the two new shades. This is Cool Brown, which I've been using a ton. You can see it's not too brown. You know, you do have some brown in there, but you have some dusty rose and some mauve in there as well. And that's what I mean when you're talking about these shades. You know, from another brand, if you're seeing something like Cool Brown, you're going to see more of just like a soft brown note, maybe some pink in there, but you don't necessarily have that mauve in there and the dusty rose and the brown kind of all mixed together in delicate proportions to really give you something more unique and to work well on a variety of skin tones. So they are the best. Then also I wanted to include the Suku Moisture Glaze, which is what I have on my lips right now in shade 3 from the Permanent line. Best new lipstick on the market this year. So this is how they come. You purchase the refill, and this one here, shade 3 that I have on my lips, you can see you have a nice glossy, shiny finish. You can get kind of a sheer color. You can build it up. They do have a finish similar to Chantecaille Lip Cheeks, but they don't have the fragrance. They're very comfortable. They're more moisturizing on the lips. They don't dry them out at all. And I absolutely love them. So this is one of my all-time favorite lipstick formulas now, and definitely the best new formula that has come out so far. Now, if you were to put it in the case, this is what the cases look like. And you just, oh, that was upside down, but you just slip your refill in there. But if you did want to purchase just a refill, you can see that you can definitely use it on its own. So you don't need to purchase a case in order to use the refill, which is a big plus in my book. And then the new Dior Rouge Dior lipsticks, they have redone them, and I have to say the new formula is better than the old one. So this is number 678 Cult. This is a satin. Their mattes are also great. And I think this is another great lip product that has come out this year. And yeah, I think they're definitely worth it for me. So I think these are a great lipstick formula. Dior has messed up quite a few of their newer products, but I feel like, you know, the lipsticks they've done really well on, the eyeliners they've done really well on, the glow matte, you know, they're still coming out with some great things. So there's still a brand to watch, but yeah, they definitely had to make it into my top lipsticks for 2024. I absolutely love them, and they have a fantastic color range. It's pretty extensive, but you know, unlike Chanel, who really has their light shades are pretty much all warm tone, then the darker shades are cooler tone. Dior has a mix. So I think that's really something to note because you can find some lighter, cooler tone shades. And yeah, I'm really happy with that. And then this is the Addiction Tokyo. These are the lip serum tints. This is number 9, Midnight Fuchsia. This is the one that I use the most. Let's just put this up here. And they have a lot of light shades for just a barely there touch of color, but you can also get some deeper shades here. This is the one that I use the most, and you can see it's kind of a really nice plummy shade with a little bit of burgundy in there, you know, but it's just a beautiful shade, cooler tone. Absolutely love this formula in general. They are comfortable, moisturizing on the lips, and they last. As for tinted lip balms, you know, we've had so many. It's really hard to narrow down a favorite, but I have to say that the two that I've been using the most would be the Tatcha, because they have SPF, and they are SPF 25. So this is the shade Plum Blossom. I wear the deeper shade the most. Midnight Lily is the name of it. I have it in my purse downstairs. And I actually wear the deeper shade of the Sicily all the time as well. Shade number 3, which is their Rosewood. This is number 2, which is called Pink Glow. And this one here is a pH adaptive shade. But those are the two formulas that I've been wearing the most. There are so many great tinted lip balms that have come out, but those two are the ones I keep reaching for and I keep in my handbag. So I hope this has been helpful. You know, we've had so many great products come out in 2024 so far. It was really difficult to narrow these things down. We've also had some misses, but I'd love to know what your favorites have been so far for 2024. I can't wait to see what the rest of the year brings. And thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you very soon. Have a great day.